It's cricket's greatest rivalry and it resumes on Friday. Australia versus England in a battle for the Ashes. Welcome to Wild Water Sports preview of the summer of cricket, one that comes with enormous expectation. Joining me, a couple of men who need little introduction. Former Australian captain Ian Chappell. Great to see you as always.
Thanks, mate.
And Mark Taylor. Always good to see you.
Hi, mate.
I'll start with you. Let's be nostalgic to kick things off.
Righto.
Your favourite playing memory in your time in Ashes cricket?
Oh, well, I'd probably have to go back to my first Ashes tour. I think I only played a couple of test matches here in Australia and was fortunate enough to be picked on the 89 Ashes tour. And I wasn't actually sure if I was going to play, even though I'd played a couple of test matches here. So to get picked and then make 100 in the first test, and we were considered the worst team to leave Australian shores in 1989. I dare say there's been a few Ashes teams that have been called that.
72 was the same.
And we came back having won the series 4-0, and the two test matches which were drawn, we had the better of those as well. We went over there with a side that had been rebuilding under Alan Border. Steve Ward been in the side for a couple of years. Heels only just come in the side, and I'd only just come in the side. And we all had good series. And as I said, by the end of it, we'd used, I think, 12 players on the tour, and England used 29 in the 6 test matches. So the roles got reversed. So my first Ashes memory is probably still one of my best.
You were standing at first slip when Shane Warne bowled the ball of the century, were you not?
I was. That was in 93.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Old Trafford. His first ball in England.
Yes.
And looking back on that game, it was funny looking at Warney coming into bowl. I reckon if you'd said to Warney after that ball, let's do it again. Could you come in and just bowl it again, bowl the same ball again? I reckon even Warney, if he tried 100 more times, I don't reckon he would have bowled a ball as well as that. It was just the perfect leggy. Drifted in, obviously pitched outside the leg stump of Mike Gatting and clipped the top of off. People will say, "Oh, Gat could have played it better, could have done this, could have done that." But I reckon Gat didn't even expect Warney to land a ball so perfectly and turn it for his first ball in Northern England, in Manchester, when it was a bit cool. Yes. The perfect ball, and for us, the perfect start.
He's still confused to this day. You played against some very strong England teams throughout your time. Anything stand out?
Yeah, 74-5. I mean, winning the Ashes back at the SCG. I mean, if you lose the Ashes, which we did in 70-71, you always want to get an opportunity to get them back, and to get that opportunity as a captain, I'll never forget the last wicket we got. Jeff Arnold caught, Greg, my brother, was at bat pad, Ashley Mallett was the bowler. Greg took the catch, Rodney Marsh was the wicketkeeper, and he turned to me with his gloved hand, put his hand out, and he said, "We've got the bastards back." The bastards being the Ashes, not England. I remember that, and if I could remember what we did at the party afterwards, that was probably pretty good as well. I only remember some of that.
Got to celebrate your successes.
Exactly.
So, to the task at hand for the Australian team this summer. It's a huge summer. It's an Ashes summer, of course, so great expectation and excitement around the country. The squad peculiarly was named before the final round of Sheffield Shield games leading into the first test, and it's changed quite dramatically on the back of that bombshell news that Josh Hazlewood has been ruled out of the first test because of a hamstring injury. This is the Australian squad. And gentlemen, it will mean our world-beating bowling attack will look very different at Optus Stadium in Perth from Friday. Mitchell Starc will be there, Scott Boland will be there, and we expect Brendan Doggett will make a test debut as the third seamer.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to play. Australia have got a few options, there's no doubt about that. With Bo Webster in the side, and obviously got Cameron Green in the side as well. They've got guys who can bowl seam up, but generally, particularly in Perth, you want to have 3 out-and-out fast bowlers. And with Starc, Boland and Doggett, if he does debut, which I suspect he will, they've got the 3 quicks. If Australia want to be a little bit more conservative and keep Webster in the side, they can actually play Webster as their third seamer, given the fact they've got Green to be their all-rounder. There's 4, and Lyon as their spinning option. So Australia do have options, but I think from an aggressive point of view, Australia would be well served to pick Brendan Doggett on debut.
And Chappell, possibly 2 debutants, Jake Weatherald has been named in the squad. Of course, he was the leading run scorer in the Sheffield Shield last year. He hasn't had the greatest of starts of the Shield campaign this year, but had enough runs in the bank to earn his place in the squad. Do you expect him to open the batting?
Well, I hope so, mainly because I would like to see Labuschagne at 3. If he's back playing the way he should play, rather than the way that he was playing, then he's a number 3. And I think at his best, he's a very good number 3. So I think it would be stupid to try and open with him, in which case you would have to open with Weatherald. Just on another point, and you sort of half mentioned it, I read somewhere where, I think it might have been Steve Smith said, there's no dibbly-dobbly medium paces from England. Well, I don't know what Mark felt, but if you've got two blokes who do pretty well the same thing, but one bowls 15 kilometres an hour quicker than the other, I know who I'd rather face. And it ain't the dibbly-dobbly. It's the good quick bowlers, if they bowl properly, and I mean, Stark is a good example. He swings the ball, he moves it off the seam, and he's quicker than most. They're bloody difficult to play. You get some medium pacer bowling, 80 miles an hour, whatever that is in kilometres. They're a hell of a lot easier to play than someone who's 90 plus. 90 plus is not that easy.
Your thoughts on Weatherald, an attacking opening batsman, which could take some pressure off Usman, who himself comes into the summer under a little bit of pressure?
Yeah, and that's why I think he'll play. I think he's got to play. He's deserved selection, as you say. This year hasn't been as fruitful as last, but last year had a terrific series, a Sheffield Shield series for Tasmania, and deserved a spot in the side. And as you say, he's more of an aggressive left-handed opening batsman than Usman, so he will take a bit of pressure off. And if you go back to what's happened in the Australian top order for the last couple of years, Marnus said a couple of years ago when David Warner retired that he didn't want to move up, and Steve Smith moved up to open the batting. Well, that only lasted a couple of tests, didn't work, and then Marnus had to come in almost by default and open up in the Test Championship. So it seems to me that Marnus is not that keen to open the batting. He's back in form at that sort of number 3 spot for Queensland, making good runs in the lead up to this Test match. So I'm with Chaps. I'd stick with Marnus at 3, play Weatherald, and tell him just to play his natural game. Because what Australia do need, because Usman will try and hold up an end, what they do need is someone to be a little bit more proactive at that top of the order, as Warner was for years, to get things moving for Australia. And if he can do that, he doesn't have to have a huge series, but if he can give Australia's innings a bit of impetus, a bit of start, then with Labuschagne at 3, Smith at 4, Head at 5, who'll be aggressive, and probably Cameron Smith at 6. Australia have got the batting to pick it up if they get off to a good start.
Have any of the Australian players said we're really disappointed that Dave Warner's gone? Because the loss of David Warner has been great in the Australian cricket team. It's made a huge difference. Warner made things so much easier for not only his partner, but all the blokes who came behind him. And Mark will tell you, if you've got someone like Warner who's, and one, to have the skill, and two, to have the guts to do that against the new ball, against anybody, is terrific. But to do it against the new ball is amazing. But Warner comes in, does that, they start spreading the field. Half the time the captains forget to put the fielders back for the other player. So it's making it easier for the guy down the other end. So they should be saying, thank you to David Warner for the job that he did. The Australian batting, if I'm England, I'm saying we've got to get a couple of wickets early. The earlier we can get Steve Smith in, Steve Smith is far and away the best Australian batsman. Get him in as early as you possibly can, gives you the greatest chance of getting him out.
As captains, you've dropped players throughout your time leading the Test team. The one thing you want to see from them is a response, and Marnus has certainly responded in the way the selectors would have wanted him to. He started the summer brilliantly. He actually made the comment last week he's batting better than he was when he was ranked number 1 in the world.
Well, that's good to hear. I said I think after the World Test Championship, the Australian side was picked for the West Indies, and Marnus went on that tour. And I said at the time, I would have liked to see Marnus just come home. He didn't play in those Test matches; they dropped him. Sometimes you have got to get away. You get so caught up in the world that you're playing in. It is that bubble, that caravan that moves around the world. Sometimes it's good to get out and just go back to doing something else. I had a mentor of mine, a great friend of mine, Neil Marks, who Chappell, he said to me one year when I was batting bad, he said, just put your bat and ball away and go and get the golf clubs out. And just have a bit of a break from the game. And I think that's what Marnus, well, he probably has done it anyway, but there's no need to go on these tours all the time. Go, get away, go and do something else and come back, as Neil Mark said to me many years ago, when you're ready to enjoy the game again. And I think that's what Marnus is doing right now.
You didn't hit a shank on the first tee, did you?
I hit him all the time.
Marnus might be batting better than he's ever batted before. One of the big things will the opposition be dropping the sitter catches that he offered and got grassed? I mean, I can't believe some of the sitters that were dropped. You can't, as a fielder, you cannot drop those catches. So, and fielding will be very important in this Ashes series. Australia have got Green as a terrific catcher in the gully. Steve Smith's a brilliant catcher in the slips. If Webster plays, he can catch. So Australia could have a very good catching cordon. England, Crawley's pretty good in the slips.
Yep.
Joe Root's steady, drops probably more than you would want at first slip. But the other fella that I wish he'd go in the slips, Stokes. Stokes is a genius slip fielder, particularly to the spinners. He should be a first slip to the spinners. Terrific.
Great fielder anywhere, really.
He is,
Tremendous
but
athlete.
He's a genius in the slips.
Now, you've touched on Cameron Green. He's very much an X factor for the Australian team, and pleasingly, he was able to bowl at full pace in the Shield game last week.
Yeah, and it's nice to see him back bowling because he is a genuine all-rounder. And there's no doubt he's one of the future players for Australia as well. Younger guy, we're certainly an ageing team, the Australian cricket side. So it is good to see him back on a number of fronts. As Chap said, his catching's also very good, which is vital. And he's got that, he's probably 80, 85 mile an hour or 135, 140 tops. But he's a big tall lad too. So he does get that extra bounce, which with the first two test matches being at Perth Stadium and then the day-nighter at the Gabba, his bowling will also be very useful. But what I'd like to see from Cameron Green this series is good solid batting from him, because we really need him not just for this series but for the next probably 5 to 10 years. We've got to start unearthing some batters, because Khawaja's now 38, nearly 39, Smith's 35, 36 years old. All our batting is getting older. Travis Head and Marnus are in their early 30s, so they've got a couple of years left, but we need to see some of these young batters coming through and become the next core of Australia's middle order.
Well, indeed, Cameron Green's the only player in the Australian team aged under 30.
Green's got to get into the side as a batsman. His bowling is a bonus, and he's a damn good bowler, but he's got to hold his place as a batsman. Number 6 has always got to be there firstly as a batsman. If he can bowl as well, and Green is a very good bowler.
Chappell, Steve Smith skipped back from New York a couple of weeks ago, had a couple of Sheffield Shield games, had a couple of hits in the nets. It only takes me a couple of hits to get going, and he has looked a class above anything we've seen all summer. So much so that he's practicing his golf swing at the non-strikers end while the rest of his teammates are struggling. He looks in incredible form.
Well, I mean, it's not surprising that he says it takes me a couple of hits. That's all it should take you. And particularly when you can play as well as Steve Smith. Now, Steve Smith, he's not the sort of fella you would say to your son, go and copy him, because not many people could play like Steve Smith and play as well as he does. But he is, as I say, he's comfortably the best batsman in the Australian side. And he's a damn good player, and that's why England would want to get him out there as early as possible, because the sooner you can get at him, the greater your chances of getting him out. If he's going to be coming in at 2 for 100, 2 for 150, well, England could be chasing plenty.
We'll touch on Pat Cummins shortly. Obviously, his absence is going to be felt quite profoundly, but Smith as captain averages mid-60s with the bat. Incredible record.
I think that's the one advantage Australia have got, is that losing Pat Cummins is a blow. Absolutely no doubt about that. Obviously an outstanding fast bowler, good leader. Australian sides play well under Pat. So it's never ideal losing your captain at the start of the series. But Australia are lucky that they've got someone like Steve Smith, who's captain before, has a very good record as captain, and as you say, as a bat. So Australia don't lose much don't lose anything really in the captaincy department. I think also when Pat is around, he and Steve spend a lot of time together on the field, particularly when Pat's bowling, about what's going to come up next and what we're going to do next. So I think they work pretty well together. So I don't think you'll see much change or you'll see Australia lose anything from that. I think what they will lose is Pat Cummins' ability just to get that, well, a number of wickets for you, but also that big wicket. He's got that record, Cummo, of when Joe Root's looking good and Harry Brooks is going hard. He's the guy for Australia often turn to get that one big wicket and turn the momentum in the innings.
If you're not inspired by Pat Cummins, then you're playing in the wrong team. If you need a wicket, you give the ball to Pat Cummins. If you need a big wicket, you give the ball to Pat Cummins. That's where he'll badly be missed. And also you shouldn't forget about the runs he can get at the bottom of the order, because if you've got, so what will you have? Doggett, Lyon, and Boland.
Stark.
So when they're Stark and bat.
Of course.
But those three are basically all number 11s. So, Pat Cummins out. Sure, the batting doesn't count for much. The bowling counts for a mozza, because he's your man. I mean, and again, I think he lifts the whole Australian side because he can get the big batsmen out in the opposition. We'll
run the rule over the visiting England squad shortly, but on the subject of Pat with the bat, on the way to the break, let's go back to one of the greatest run chasers in Ashes history, the first test of 2023, and Pat Cummins got Australia over the line in quite amazing fashion.
It's going to be these last hour or so that's going to decide it. That's Pat Cummins.
Up and over again, aggression from the Australian skipper. 6 more.
Well, that's it as far as I'm concerned.
On the offside. So he nails it past that man at extra cover. This is very smart batting from Pat Cummins. Crawley does well. No, he doesn't. He stopped it and then he kicked it over.
He's taken the edge. There'll be one. Cummins will come back for 2. Oh, he's knocked it over the boundary edge. And Australia are home. Ice in his veins. Pat Cummins has led his team to a famous victory here at Edgbaston. 72 they needed when he came to the crease, and he has got his team over the line.
This is Outside the Rope, looking at the Ashes series, which starts at Optus Stadium in Perth on Friday. Cannot wait. Some quick singles, boys. You love the quick singles, Tubby.
Oh, you love
Rotate the strike
yeah.
with the new ball. Pat Cummins will be back for the second test.
Yes, I think he will be. From what I've heard, he's been training out the SCG in recent times and is getting his speeds up there. So given the fact that he obviously missed the first test and there's a bit of a break till the second, so he's got till December 4, I suspect we'll see him at the Gabba. Not sure he'll play back-to-back games, but if he plays at the Gabba and has to miss Adelaide, then I reckon he might even play Melbourne and see how he goes for Sydney. So ideally Australia would love him for 4, but I think they'd settle to get him for 3 test matches.
Chappell, there's a lot of talk coming out of the England camp about Ollie Pope's place in the team. Jacob Bethel will replace him at some stage during the Ashes, is my question.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but if I'm an Australian player, I'm very happy to see Pope at 3. Pope's a twitchy player at 3. He doesn't exude confidence at 3. When your number 3 walks out, you want to be thinking as the team in the dressing room, this fella gives us a lot of confidence. I mean, Ricky Ponting walks out at number 3, you're thinking, not only is he likely to survive against some good bowling early on, but he can counter-attack as well. Pope is skittish and he's jumpy, and so I'd be very happy as an Australian player seeing him at 3, but I'm not sure that we're going to see Bethel at 3 in this series.
Okay, Joe Root. Will he finally get that test ton down here?
From an Australian point of view, obviously they'll be hoping not. But the great thing about Joe is that he's probably in as good a form now as he's been throughout his career. He had an excellent series against India recently at home, playing very well. Obviously, he doesn't like the bounce and the pace of the pitches as much here in Australia as he does overseas, because he does score a lot of runs down to third man. He tends to just open the face of the bat, run the ball down. In England, get away with that. In India, get away with that. Here in Australia, not so much. And that's where he has struggled. At the end of the day, he still averages 35, I think, in Australia, which is not bad. Yeah. Okay, it's not the Joe Root averaging 51 or 52 in Test cricket, but he's not terrible. The thing that England will be hoping for is he gets 100 early on. And if he does and his confidence is lifted, he'll be a danger for Australia, particularly when I think the guy after him, Harry Brooks, I think he's the one to watch for me for England. I think he's a very fine player.
I'm really looking forward to the answer to this question. Shoaib Bashir won't play a test.
Oh, no, I mean, you'd have to be thinking about him, certainly for Adelaide and Sydney. I mean, no, I would disagree with that. I think he can bowl. He's not the most accurate off-spinner, but he's got something about him. And Stokes uses him pretty well. And anybody who thinks that Stokes is not a good captain is not talking through his hat. Stokes is a very good captain. Just to go back to the point you were making, I think to me it was always easier to go from a high bouncing place like Australia to a low bouncing place. Much harder to go from a low bouncing place like India and come to Australia. And I think part of that is because the good overseas players tend to force the ball off the back foot that way, whereas in Australia you're using the horizontal bat shot, you're cutting, you're pulling, and you're not. I mean, you can force off the back foot waist high, that's okay, but once you start to try and force up here, you're going to nick, and if the blokes here are any good, you're going to offer catches. So I think that's one problem. But Bashir, there's definitely a place for him. Certainly Adelaide and Sydney, surely they'd be playing him.
I wasn't expecting that.
Why?
I didn't think you'd be a Shoaib Bashir fan. His record's not very good at all.
Oh, no, he can bowl.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think you also got to give yourself some variety. Yeah. Like Perth, and then you've got the Gabba, the day-nighter, pink ball. You don't necessarily need a slow bowler in those conditions. But Adelaide, especially a day game this year in Adelaide, Sydney, I can't see, I'm with Chaps, I can't see how you can play without having a spinner.
The other thing is, and he's got a pretty good attack if Stokes is fit to bowl in all 5 tests, it's going to be hard work for Australia because Stokes is a bloody good bowler. And, the other guys, Archer, if he's available for 3, he's pretty useful. Wood, they got a decent attack. Cass, big heart, I got a lot of time for him. Atkinson, no mug. So if those guys are bowling well, and then you bring, and the batsmen are under the hammer, and you bring Bashir on, and the batsman says, oh, thank heavens for that, now here's some run, and you go after him. Bashir's good enough to get him out, long as he can maintain a bit of control. He does vary a bit, but as I say, Stokes uses him quite well. So I got a bit of time for Bashir.
Okay, let's have a look at that England squad. We've already touched on it, but Joe Root ranked number 1 in the world for Test batters. Harry Brook ranked number 2. They're going to spearhead the team. They've obviously got the inspirational captain Ben Stokes, who leads from the front with both bat and ball. And pace seems to be the order of the day. Jofra Archer, who's not played a lot of Test cricket throughout his career, tours Australia. Mark Wood suffered a hamstring injury in the first match of the tour, which isn't a great sign. But backing him up, as you touch on, Chappell, Cars, Josh Tongue, also bowls with good pace. And I guess Atkinson is the steadying influence in the England attack.
Yeah, and okay, the Tongue, he could be one or the other. He could be quite good or he could be pretty bad. But the others, I think, good. Just to go back to the thing about Joe Root not having made 100, if Joe comes here wanting to get that 100, that could be a mistake. Think of it this way. I mean, his average, as Mark said, is about 36 in Australia. If he were to average 36 in Australia this time and the other batsmen do their job, he's complementing a good batting lineup. If you're getting 60, 70, 80 and the team's getting to 400, where's the problem? And it's also not a matter of what Joe Root did on the last tours to Australia. It's what he does on this tour. But if he can complement the other batsmen, even without making 100, people don't need to jump up and down about that.
Of course, beyond Brooke and Root, Ben Duckett at the top of the order has established an incredible record of Test cricket.
Absolutely, and as you say, Zach Crawley, his record is not great, but he's dangerous.
He's bloody dangerous.
Saw him bat at was it Manchester 2 years ago. He made 150 on, and just took Australia on and whacked them all around the park. So Zach Crawley can play also. He tends to find a way of getting out, Zach Crawley, but he's a fine player. I don't necessarily think that England's worry is in their batting, because they got Jamie Smith down at
he can
7.
Play.
He can bat. He averages nearly 50 in Test match
Very
cricket
good
as well.
player,
But the interesting thing for England will be that bowling attack you talked about. Can they keep Australia under pressure? Can they continue the narrative around Australia's top order? Khawaja and Weatherald, Labuschagne back in the side. If they can get early wickets, and as Chap said, get Smith in early, then they're in the game. The problem they've got is that they don't have a lot of experience with their bowling. Jofra Archer's been around for 6 years now and played 15 tests, but he's dangerous. We know that. He can be quick. The other bowlers they've got can also look fine bowlers to me, but haven't bowled much here. But you don't necessarily need to have experience to be good here. If you go back to when England won here, I think in 2010-11, it wasn't Broad and Anderson who won them that series. It was blokes like Bresnan, Tremlett, these sort of guys. I think Steve Finn played a bit in that series. It was other guys who chipped in and got really useful wickets. I think there's enough runs in this England side. It'll be up to whether those bowlers can do what England did, say, 15 years ago, and get into Australia's, firstly the top order, and then into their middle order, and keep them under wraps.
It doesn't matter what you bowl, you've got to bowl well. That's the answer. The answer to bowling, not just in Australia, but anywhere, is to bowl well. And here's another thing. The rubbish that is spoken about Bazball is total rubbish, because what Stokes is doing is what you should do, what England should have been doing a lot of the time. Firstly, if you boil Test cricket down and simplify it, the batsman's job is to score the runs as quickly as possible, because the hardest thing to do in the game is to get 20 wickets. So you try and give the bowlers as long as possible to get the 20 wickets. And the other thing that Stokes is doing is he's trying to beat the opposition from ball number one. It's one reason why I thought Mark Taylor was a very good captain, because he was trying to win from ball number one, which is how you should play cricket. Now, if you're trying to win from ball number one, you're sending a message to your own team, which gets the good players going, and you're also sending a message to the opposition. And what you're saying to the opposition is, mate, there's no draw here. This is a win or a loss. And I tell you what, there's a lot of captains, they panic a bit when they realise there's no draw here.
Well, the statistics are damning against the visiting England team. It's been a decade since they held the Ashes. It's been 15 years since they last won a series here in Australia. And the last 3 series played in Australia: 4-0, 4-0, 5-0.
Not surprising. You look at the captains they had. Alistair Cook, not very good. Joe Root, horrible. And England on the last tour were shocking. So I'd almost eradicate them. And if this England side will be better captained, that's the first thing. But if they bowl and play like they did on the last 3 Ashes, they'll lose 4-0 again. But I don't think it will happen.
What is your prediction?
Well, I mean, why are you going to predict? Because you don't know what the weather's going to do, although most tests will be finished. I think it'll be, as I said, if Stokes is fit to bowl in all 5 test matches, it'll be pretty tight.
Okay.
Very tight.
I'm a bit with Chaps. I think, provided there's no washout for a test match, I think we'll get 5 results.
Yeah.
And we could easily get a 3-2 series.
Yeah.
I think it can be that close. And it'd obviously be great for the series. I think Australia will start favourites, but as I said, England have got the side here to win if their bowlers can stack up.
Yeah.
The worry is someone like Mark Wood is already out, and I'm not sure they're going to get much out of Mark Wood, since he hasn't played since February. But England certainly have the side, they've got the leader, and they've got the approach that can beat Australia.
A bloke like Mark Wood, he's a very good bowler, very fast bowler, but you've got to get wickets, and that's one thing with Stokes. He's got to convince them that the idea is not to make the batsman hop around and to make him look uncomfortable. That's terrific, but you've got to get him out. And there's 2 two things I'd say about Stokes' captaincy where he needs to sort things out. The bouncer barrage is the greatest waste of time I've ever seen. Mark will tell you that the worst thing about the bouncer is you don't know when it's coming. And it's got to be accurate. There's no good bowling a bouncer over here, bouncer over there. It can be 150 clicks. Doesn't matter. If it's up here at the throat and you're not quite sure when it's coming, that's the most dangerous, isn't it, when you don't know. If you're getting the bouncer barrage all the time, you know it's coming, that's not so much of a problem. And Stokes' other problem is he struggles to get the lower order players out. Now, that's why the side in Australia's side in Perth might help him a little bit. But if Pat Cummins is there with Stark, then he's got that problem getting the lower order out.
All right, it's going to be another fascinating summer of cricket. Australia and England back at it. Gentlemen, great to see you.
Thanks, Tomo.
Enjoy the first test starting on Friday, and thanks for watching.